they have headsets. This guy must be legit.
That's right.
No, we're just in a basement somewhere. All right. 3, 2, 1. Coach Dave Smith. Now, I have to just go with my first thoughts. My favorite thing about sports, it has to be my number one thing. Actually, there's probably two things. My first is, not in this order, but I watch sports for greatness. Like, I'm not a Patriots fan or anything, but I will tune into Patriots, just like, because that's something so rare. Like when Michael Jordan was basketball playing and the Bulls were fantastic. I wasn't a Bulls fan, but I would watch Jordan. My second favorite thing, though, is the turnaround story. Like a team that's not been good, no matter what sport, a team that's not been good for a while, and you bring in someone new and they're trying to turn things around. And to watch that story unravel, and when that team does turn around, is really just engaging to me. And that is sports for me. Now, you've taken over a program. You're going into your second season as head coach RPI Hockey, and you got a turnaround to make, right? Like, RPI Hockey hasn't been that strong as far back as I looked, past 6, 7, 8, 10 years, something like that. And you took on this job to turn it around. Why'd you take the job?
Well, because of the first part. The first reason that attracts you to sports is that greatness, right? RPI has had that. RPI has been... the simple explanation I give my friends and family and people that ask is RPI has been to the top of the mountain. They've seen it, they love it, and that attracted a lot of the passionate fans to RPI hockey in the past. 1985 national championship, but it's been a historically great program. At Canisius, where I was for 12 years as the head coach, we built something special. And every day we climb and we climb and we climb. I felt with the resources and the passion that RPI has and puts into the program, I felt like we were closer to the top of the mountain on a daily basis. Not afraid to dig in and work. The rebuild is real. It's really, it takes everyone. It takes our entire community that every day we show up, we've got a full staff and the players and a commitment, and there's some hard days and there's some great days. But if I fly to 30,000 feet and look down, RPI and the city of Troy is a special place. It's a special opportunity.
And that's, you taking that on is part of the story that captivates me. It's like, okay, who's the person that's willing to take this on and why? Because you were at Canisius for a long time, weren't you?
Yeah, 12 years.
Is that a long? That seems like a long time in the collegiate hockey world. Is that?
Well, it can be, and what was hard is they really worked hard to keep me there. And my wife had a great job at the University of Buffalo. She's a philosophy professor. She ran a big program there. Our kids, that's where they called home. Now both are in college, but they called it home. It was a hard move, and a former RPI assistant coach, Rick Gotkin, who is now the head coach at Mercyhurst. He was here an assistant for 2 years, I think like 86, 87, 87, 88, right around that time. And he always said to me, I worked with him for 3 years at Mercyhurst, and he always said to me, when the high-profile jobs come open, the high-profile coaches want them, and everybody applies. Everybody wants to pick up a winner where they are. Nobody wants to build it. And I really embraced that at Canisius, and the trust that we built in that Canisius community around the city of Buffalo, that, holy cow, look what you've done. If we can do that here, and I believe we can, then this is back to the RPI being at the top of the national standings, and it's fun to build. It's hard, but it's fun.
And that's what's fun to watch as a fan, is that, and somebody willing to take on that difficulty is what really engages me. And I have to root for RPI. When I heard, saw last year you were coming on, I was like, all right, let me look into this guy, because we went to I've only been living in Troy for about 2 years, but went to several RPI games. We lived up in St. Lawrence County, and we went to a bunch of St. Lawrence games, and used to see RPI. I'm like, engineers, like that.
You can too be healed.
Dude.
Yeah.
That was a weird place. All right. We lived in South Florida for about 10 years, and then just wanted to completely do the exact yin to that yang.
Yeah.
And we moved to St. Lawrence County, which is, I don't know, 5,000 people when the students are there. And yeah, that was a different world. But what it did do for me, I fell in love with hockey because you just don't get that in South Florida. You know, there's no collegiate teams to speak of in Florida, at least where we were. Are there any collegiate teams? I don't even know if there are. But I went to a couple Panthers games, but the NHL isn't the same as college, especially this Northeast college stuff. So when we were up in Canton in that little old, was it Appleton Arena?
Yeah, great.
Like,
it is a
great arena. Like, I'm like, this is so intimate. Like, I'm seeing these players out there that it was just fun to be in the hockey world because there was nothing else going on, like you said.
Yeah. Well, it's St. Lawrence has a special environment and a special atmosphere, and they need to recruit for their environment. We recruit to our environment, and the ECAC is such a great league with great history and tradition. It's also great rivalries. So we have a good rivalry with St. Lawrence. We have a great rivalry with lots of teams in our league. But we've got to create our own special version of what RPI can be.
You mentioned like they're old rivalries, which is what's fun.
Yeah.
Is that was it RPI like 1824 or whatever it was?
Yeah,
I don't know how long. And then of course St. Lawrence is really old too. But that was the first thing that struck me is how old these arenas, how old these schools are, how old these teams are, how old these traditions are, and when I saw RPI might have been one of the first few games I went up there, but that really stood out because when your away uniforms, are they the say Engineers or is that the?
Yeah, and they may have changed over the last couple of years, but there's some version of RPI or Engineers or Rensselaer for sure.
See, what that struck to me as is like, what? Like all these hockey players, part of the reason I really like hockey now, collegiate hockey, especially ECAC, or ECAC. I don't know if anybody says ECAC.
Nobody does.
No, I think I do. Yeah. I've done it a few times.
You can push that trend, but most are saying ECAC.
ECAC.
So, yeah.
That probably sounds better. ECAC. Yeah, it's a little alliterative. Is that they're smart schools, too. And so I'm like, these are tough schools to get into, just period. And you're supposed to be playing D1 hockey, too. I'm like, what? So that kind of just... there's a special athlete that needs to be able to stay in this to get into this school, maintain the grades to stay in this school, and also to be a D1 athlete. And to me, that's a hard combination to find in a person, is that somebody that's smart enough and talented enough to play for an RPI, to play for St. Lawrence or Harvard or Union or whomever. So you got... How does that affect recruiting? You guys are all going after the same crop of people, I would imagine.
We are. But I think, again, to put it in perspective of RPI recruiting, we try to keep it very simple. Now, it's not a simple process. Recruiting is very challenging, and you can take a lot of people right off the mix because they don't have what it takes to be an RPI student athlete. So to keep it simple, though, we're looking for elite hockey players. That's where we start, right? We're always going to start there. And then we're looking for a committed student. So we require our guys to go to class, sit in the first 3 rows, don't wear your hat, know your professor. And if you do those things and you provide the necessary effort, then you'll succeed, most likely, academically, right? So you put in the effort, you're a committed student, but each and every one of our guys is a hockey player. That's their identity. Their identity is a hockey player, and it's a great story, and I think you see what happens. We push them. We challenge them all the time as hockey players. We demand that they go to class. We demand that as well. But they know if they go to class and put in the effort, that's so that they can play hockey. And when we see the alumni and how successful they are after their pro hockey careers or after their RPI hockey careers, the combination of elite athlete with a committed student creates a pretty special person.
That's poetic. Did you get that from your philosopher wife? That kind of thinking?
No, she can challenge us all of us pretty good. But it's a simple recipe. I mean, it's a simple recipe, and anything too extravagant is too hard to make and too hard to replicate. So we look for elite athletes and committed students.
Now, along those lines, between your time at Canisius and now RPI, have you ever been turned off or rejected, say, a recruit, say, an elite athlete because of the attitude or because of the person? You're like, oh, this kid's not going to work here. He's like, have you ever been like, I'm not saying I don't know if you'd ever turn off a Wayne Gretzky type talent, but if you saw a really talented kid and you're just like, no, he's just not going to work here because there's something missing. Is that a thing? Because
all the time. So it happens so really the top 10% in talent, the team, the program, the organization will adapt. If somebody's in that top 10, if they're that good, Wayne Gretzky good, we will all adapt to them. Okay. The rest, the other 90%, again, hopefully we're pushing the limits on that 10% all the time. But it happens where we'll bring them in on visits. And we've had, in the last 2 weeks, I think we've had 17 prospective student athletes visit. On some of those visits, they'll stay with our players. And we'll ask our players, hey, what'd you think? How'd it go? And for various reasons, we have pulled the plug on recruiting that kid. The players own our program in terms of they know the behavior that we require and ask of them. And if they see somebody comes in who wants to do things that are outside of our family, our commitment level, we ask them, hey, did you like that guy? Was he committed to the same things? Does he have the same value structure? And absolutely, we will pull offers and have done that on numerous occasions.
Whoa. Wow.
It's very, very selective. I mean, we're picking and selecting young men that are going to represent our hockey program, which is what they think. And when they get here, they're also representing me, the head coach, our assistant coach, our entire staff, and the entire institution. So if they're a buffoon on Friday and Saturday nights in the off season, they're not representing our program the right way. If they're not committed to the same beliefs that we are, commitment, integrity, discipline, and family, what are they committed to? So it's a big task, and we're very selective.
That's got to be difficult to weed that out, right?
Our guys are great. Our assistant coaches spend a lot of time. We do a lot of recruiting. Is an absolute beast. When you're talking, we're recruiting across the country, 3 guys, and go out and talk to people. The established network, that I've had from 20 years in college hockey, that both our assistants, Chuck Weber and Dan Jewell, have from pro hockey and college hockey. We lean on those guys. Tell me about the kid. What's he like? Has he ever had any adversity? How involved are his parents? I mean, it's a massive undertaking, but these guys are good. These assistant coaches, they really, it's a business model. You put names in the top of the filter, and for whatever reason, names just squirt out the side, right? You don't want them, and whatever comes out the bottom has stood the test of our time, and they're usually pretty quality young men.
Now, are these assistant coaches you reference, are they guys that you brought with you, that you hired on, or did you absorb them when you came to RPI?
So, interesting question. So, Dan Jewell I brought with me. I hadn't worked with him in the past, but he came from, he was the general manager and associate coach in the USHL, United States Hockey League, in Central Illinois, or Bloomington it was at the time. I brought him in. His knowledge of the player pool, his work ethic, and he's a goaltender. That 3 combination is unique. Chuck Weber had been 19 years a head coach and GM in professional hockey, coached in Russia, coached in the American Hockey League, coached at a very high level. He's actually on a 1-year contract now, replacing Nolan Graham, who was injured in a car accident last year and has had to take a disability time as he heals. So I've known Chuck for a long time. Nolan was an RPI alum, and obviously we wish him the best in a speedy recovery, but it's a long process for him. But in this business, we know these coaches. We know who works hard, who's a good person, who digs in and helps make their team better.
So the hockey world, you talk about community in your 20 years, you said 20 years or so
20
of
years
coaching. And because you were a player before that,
yeah,
of course. It's a tight community, right? Does everyone kind of know everyone?
Yes.
Because that's
simple.
That's the sense I get. Because the hockey fans that I've had friends in my life, friends or family, like they are gung-ho hardcore hockey fans, and it's like I can't even now that I know hockey, I understand what they're saying and I get it. I get that passion. But when I was just like into baseball, football, basketball, the main American sports, I guess. I had no idea what these guys, why they cared about hockey so much. And I'm just like, you're so rare. Like, I don't know another one of you that loves hockey. There would be one friend out of 50 that cared about hockey. And then the more, once I moved north.
Better friends.
Yeah, I know. I need more Canadian friends.
That's right.
You're Canadian, right?
I am.
See, that was one of the best things about moving to St. Lawrence County is we were 12 miles from Canada. Like, that opened up a whole new world of what are these Canadians doing? And there's hockey rinks everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, I've thought of many times how one of the first times I went to Ottawa and saw the Rideau Canal. I always think I say that wrong. Rideau, whatever it is. And we were there in the winter, and just little kids skating around everywhere. Thousands of people, and they call it the world's largest hockey rink, I think. And I'm like, okay, what's this all about? And there's just people ice skating everywhere. And then we met people up there that they would skate along the canal to work. Like, I'm like, what is this place? So first time I ever put on ice skates was like 5 years ago, and I was terrible at it. So when I see all these people like skating around and stuff, I'm like, this is a breeding ground of hockey players. Like, when I see a 2-year-old kid out there skating with his dad, I'm like, I can't where was that? Like, I wish I had that. And it seems to me that Canada is a breeding ground for that. And Canada's just dope. I love Canada so much. I miss it. That's actually, if we're saying, like, what do you miss most about living in Canton, New York, where St. Lawrence is, I'd say the thing I miss the most is Canada. Like, I love Canada.
Yeah.
Now, where are you from?
I'm from Ontario, so about 2 hours northwest of Toronto. Very small town.
Yeah, because you get really small once you get because 2.5 hours.
Yeah, our closest city.
That's pretty far.
So Toronto, our closest city would be Guelph, which is just over 100,000 people. That's 45 minutes away. My town, I think, is up to 2,000 people now.
Up to?
Yeah, but I love it. My town of Arthur. I was just there a couple weeks ago, and a lot of the guys I went to high school with are still there. I got to see them and send a quick message to everybody. Get 8 or 9 buddies together real quick. It's a lot of fun.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So when did you start playing hockey?
Yeah, I was young. I know that I think 3 is the earliest documentation, because I don't remember 3, but I know that we have some paraphernalia that said I was 3 when I was playing.
Wow. And now is this like playing on an actual rink, or you just wait for a pond to freeze and you get out there? And
Well, my mother built a rink in our backyard forever. My father had polio, and so he was in a wheelchair, wasn't able to do that stuff. My mom built a rink for us. It wasn't big, but we played in it all the time in the backyard. Christmas Day, we do that before we open presents, and it was special memories about backyard hockey, that's for sure. But we also had a rink 2 blocks away, and now they make 2 rinks outside in this little town. So there's backyard rinks, there's community outdoor rinks, and then there is the fancy indoor rink.
Fancy.
Yeah.
I watched a Wayne Gretzky documentary a while ago, and I forget how old he was, but it seemed like he was 2, 3, 4, 5 years old whenever it was. I think the first video was him indoors. I guess he was probably like 2 when they showed this video of him and his grandmother playing hockey indoors. Like, he just had a little hockey stick, and she would pretend to be the goaltender, and he would like try to shoot a sock by her or something.
Right.
And then within no time, it seemed like, okay. And then all of a sudden, they built a little rink in the backyard, which I'm imagining are just completely just common across Canada, right? The backyard rink. Like, you saying that, I'm like, okay, that's the Wayne Gretzky story. Yeah. And other people I've talked to, other Canadians, like, yeah, we just play in the backyard. Like, don't worry about a rink. Just lay down some water and put up little divide. I don't know what you call them, boards, and you have a rink and you're playing hockey. And they said he was like obsessed. Like, he would be out there before school, like playing an hour or 2 before he had to go to school, and just out there just skating around. And then he'd go to school and come back and just go skating around. Like, he was obsessed from such a young age. And I tried to just factor in, I'm like, where does that person come from? Like, where does a Wayne Gretzky come from? Because to me, he was hockey when I first started paying attention to hockey when I was like 9, 10, 8, 11 years old. Like, that was it. It was only Wayne Gretzky.
Right.
And so I learned more of his story, and I'm like, like, that's why he the great one, right? Like he wasn't a normal person.
Right.
But it was so foreign to me. I'm like, a skating rink in your backyard? Like, what planet are you from? But then I find out, he's Canadian. They all do that.
Yeah.
Who's better at hockey? Who produces better hockey players, Canadians or Russia?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I'm Canadian, so I'm going to say Canada. The other piece of it, the last I spent 4 years at college, and then I went to play pro, and then now I've been in the last 20 years or so. I've been in college hockey. Not a lot of Russians. More coming over now, but the number of Canadians that we're exposed to in our recruiting is primarily Canada and the U.S. So I'd have to answer that as Canada.
Just making sure.
Yeah.
Just making sure you were a home team homer. So do you when you go back home up there, say like Arthur, Ontario, is that what you said?
That's correct.
Do you ask around? Like, are you the everybody know that you're a coach in the States, and then
I'm just Dave to those.
You're just
guys.
Dave?
They know what I do, but
do you snoop around and say, hey, who's the
all the time. That's our job.
Who's the 14-year-old kid? Like,
We're
how are these kids around here?
All the time. We are always fishing for the best prospect across North America. When we have a young man on our team from Finland, we have a young man on our team from Slovakia. So we'll go anywhere to find a talented hockey player that fits the bill for RPI.
Now, you mentioned the 30,000-foot view.
Yeah.
Now, are you also out there recruiting? Because that seems like that would take up so much of your time. Or do you have these other guys that are doing that? Because it's hard to keep that 30,000-foot view, I think, perspective, if you're also spending so much time traveling and talking to
So the
kids.
experts in recruiting for us are Chuck Weber and Dan Jewell. Those are our two assistant coaches. I do go out as well, but I go a little differently because I'm not on the road as much as them. I don't see as many games as them, but it is good for me to help identify and evaluate players and to be able to converse and argue as a staff. Like, hey, we like this guy better and why? What are we trying to build in our team and why? So the three of us are the primary recruiters. You have to pass a test to go on the road and recruit. You have to be employed by the school to talk to young men. But we do rely on our network of coaches and friends across both countries to help us.
Who's the smartest position on the? Because you mentioned one of these guys was a goaltender, and you kind of hinted at that there was something special or unique about that. Now, in my mind, that the goaltender is almost the quarterback. Is that true, or is it more the center?
Well, I don't know. I mean, we try to measure hockey IQ in our players. I think there's also a skill in evaluating them, which is a different type of hockey IQ. By position, I think we want them all to be smart. I don't think you could say this guy's smarter than that guy. It's more unique to the individual. As coaches, there's some really, really talented evaluators out there that scout, and then there's also talented communicators that you need to recruit in. It's a really hard and difficult job. A lot of competition.
How does that compare to being out in Buffalo?
Just different competition. We're recruiting a little bit different student athlete at RPI than at Canisius. We've got 4 NHL draft picks on our team. At Canisius, our NHLer was Corey Conacher, who plays in the Tampa system still. But RPI has over 30 guys that have been in the NHL, and so just a little bit different. But the competition is there all the time. It doesn't matter whether you're at Canisius or RPI or anywhere in between.
Now, you mentioned before we turned this on that you and your wife were looking for a brownstone here in Troy. How much did the city of Troy have on your impact to move out here?
You know what? We came for hockey, and at an institution that sort of merged my own coaching beliefs. Like, we want to develop the entire person, just talking hockey only. The other piece of moving here for us was the flexibility for my wife. As a philosophy professor, and she was a director of interdisciplinary programs at University of Buffalo, could she do something here? And we didn't know what that would be. She ended up working at RPI. Coincidentally, nothing prearranged. The city of Troy, we knew it was passionate about hockey, but it really revolved around RPI more than anything else.
Now,
Initially.
Initially.
Yes.
And now what do you think that you've been here? You're like, oh, maybe this wasn't a bad place to land, but beyond RPI.
You know, so Nolan Graham graduated from RPI in 2010. He had been an assistant coach for 7 years. He talked about an RPI when he was a student, those, 06 to 2010 years, and it was a rougher time, I think, for downtown Troy. And that's what we had heard. That's what you hear when you come in from the outside. And he said, well, I live in Troy now, and you got to check out the farmer's market. You got to check out Whistling Kettle and the Oyster Plum Bar and some of the great places that are down here. So we started looking around, and that's why we were looking for a brownstone. That's why we said let's live in the heart of the city that has the institution we're going to work at. We weren't able to find one. It was competitive there too.
Right.
We ended up moving, just into one of the other suburbs, but the rebirth of Troy reminded us of what we'd been through in Buffalo with the rebirth of Buffalo. And it's pretty exciting to see these old historic buildings that now have, restaurants in basements and lots of other things in basements and main floors.
Like where we are.
Like where we are. Right?
In a basement
this is
in downtown.
Cool spot and an unbelievable building, a stone's throw from, you're 9 iron from about 8 places I like to go to for food.
Have you ever lived in a downtown city where you get to walk around, you don't have to drive everywhere?
We lived in a first ring suburb. We were in Buffalo, and we could walk to this. It was a North Buffalo area that had a lot of shops and restaurants and a park. So we consider that city living, although it wasn't city like we're in right this minute.
Yeah, there's something really attractive about a city like this because it's more like a neighborhood. That's how I describe Troy when I'm talking to friends that come visit and stuff. I'm like, picture Brooklyn, but just like 5 blocks of Brooklyn, like just a little neighborhood in Brooklyn. That's what this is. It's very manageable, but like just hanging out here, you saw outside, like you get to talk to people on the street. Like when I was hanging out waiting for you, I met like 3 new people. And I love that energy, and I love that there's colleges here.
Right.
Besides Russell Sage, just RPI on top of the hill. I love that. I love running the approach, the RPI approach. I loved when I could just wake up in the morning 6:30 and go for a jog, just running those stairs. I'm like, there's something about city living, and just RPI is just a beautiful campus, such a great location. I can understand. It's basically I'm getting to. I'm like, yeah, this is a sweet gig for you.
It's a great gig. Every campus tour, we were up on top of the hill and we looked down on the city. And we said, that's where my assistant coach lives, right by that blue building you can see from up here, and that's where we're going to go eat later. And then we come down and we say, all right, look up the hill, and we're going to drive up it. You run up it, but we're going to drive up the hill, and it's spectacular. And the relationship between the city of Troy and RPI. They feel very, very connected. I mean, we've got some administrative offices just around the corner from here. We've got a dining hall that is downtown and a dorm that's downtown of sorts. And that relationship is important to us as we sell RPI and the hockey world to prospective students and their families.
And what I've seen is there's a lot of RPI students that stay. They are staying here. I don't know how it was in 10 years ago, like you said. Nolan said 2006 to 10, it wasn't so good. I grew up probably about 3 or 4 hours away from here in Connecticut, and we never came here. Like it was like Troy, Albany, Schenectady. No, please stay away. Don't come here in the 1990s or early 2000s. But now, and it would be like people would try to probably imagine just RPI. People wouldn't stay here. Students were like, I'm not coming here now. But now we see all these little businesses popping up, like you mentioned, all these restaurants and all these downtown things, all these engineering and software companies down here, all these RPI grads. I think that building over there, there's several companies and buildings around here by RPI people. So it's just like a strong footprint now. And there's such a good momentum in the city. And I think RPI is obviously is a big part of that.
It feels like it is, Doug. It feels also, we talk about the ups and downs of the city of Troy. I think it was 1794, 1784 it was founded as a city. I see it on the sign when I go under the bridge by Russell Sage. That's an old city. When you're that old, you're going to have some real highs and some potential real lows. And now through it all, we're doing a rebirth. Well, our hockey program has had some real highs and it's had some lows, and now we're trying to build that momentum back up. So I think there's a neat synergy between a historical place and a historical program, and where the city is going and where our hockey program is going. And we brag about the city, we brag about the people in the city, and it's an easy thing to brag about.
Is that becoming, well, it's certainly got to be a benefit now, right, to recruiting, right? If you bring
Absolutely.
kids here,
Yeah.
like, okay, go downtown and walk around, go to your Plum Oyster Bar, go to your
Right.
Whistling Kettle, go
Right.
to your Ilium, go to your Ruck,
Yeah.
go to wherever, go the farmers market. That was the first thing that you mentioned,
phenomenal.
dude. Like, I've been to farmers markets across the country, and world, sure, we could throw in the rest of the world. And I think that this is the best one I've ever been to. Just it's
phenomenal, yeah.
huge, it's awesome, and of course, mostly the summer market is really like
Yeah.
mind blowing when you're like, oh, how many people are here? Look at
Right.
all this stuff you can buy.
Yeah.
The winter market's pretty cool too, but obviously the summer market is fantastic. That's
A
got to
lot-
be
a
part
lot
of the
our
sales
guys-
pitch.
A lot of our guys, so the freshmen come in this year. We haven't had classes. Classes start tomorrow. The first weekend they're here, they go to the market. And I get text messages from like, Coach, this is awesome. They're taking pictures, they're tweeting them out, and that's the connection. It is phenomenal to have those guys experience that and to walk past each other. They were walking past each other, haven't met their teammates yet, and they look and they're like, hey, are you so-and-so? Like, they just arrived. And two guys met at the farmers market. It's a really interesting story, right? At downtown Troy, they're not going to be roommates, but they're going to be teammates for sure. And just the whole area is again part of the sales pitch for us.
Yeah, that's nothing but an asset. That's certainly something you have on St. Lawrence, Canton.
Yeah, we won't negative recruit. We love.
No, you don't have to say anything. I can.
Yeah, you can say whatever, but they're going to sell their strengths. Our strengths are things like the restaurants we've mentioned, the downtown core and its rebirth and revitalization, and the farmers markets at the top of that list.
Right. I won't talk trash on Canton anymore. They have, was it 3 pizza places now and 2 Chinese? Like, it's terrible. It's awful food up there. It's so bad, man. It's so bad.
We'll let you run with that one.
Yeah, you don't talk smack. I can. So, what position did you play as a player?
I was a centerman.
Now, is that the speedy shifter assist guy?
I'd like to say yes, but again, I was in a different era. I was a defensive guy that could score some goals occasionally and played hard. Some people would say played dirty, but it was a different era. A lot of stick work, a lot of competitive. I signed a contract with the Rangers at one time, so I was okay, but no games in the National Hockey League, and skating wouldn't have been my strength, but competing probably was at the top of the list.
So, like, you're a grit guy. You're saying skating isn't one of your strengths?
Yeah, skating wasn't one of my strengths. I could get around. I was okay, but not at the level that these guys are and the top players in the National League were at. Even then, it's I was a competitive guy who hard on the puck, good around the net front, but in the open ice, the way the game is now, it's so fast. I couldn't play in today's game, but I didn't have to. It was different back then.
It is so fast.
Yeah.
It is so fast. That was the thing that stood out to me the most, because when I've been to NHL games, they were I was never that close down to the ice, and when I got close to the ice of these, say at St. Lawrence or here at RPI or in Union, any of these places I've been around here, I'm like, what? This is so fast, because that's people have always said, like, you got to go see live hockey. Mm-hmm. Like, you got to go see live hockey. There's nothing like it. And I got it. The first 5 minutes of seeing live hockey, like 10 feet away, these guys are going. I don't know, how fast does the fastest hockey player go? Skate. Like,
there was something where they measured Connor McDavid last year, and I want to say it was in that. It might be a little off, but it was somewhere around like the 60 kilometer an hour range. I think it might have been like 35, 37 miles an hour, something in that ballpark, but really fast.
Dude.
Really fast.
Oh my God. And it's the stopping too that's the big skill, right? The turning and.
Well, I would tell people, Doug, you don't need to worry about stopping. Just keep going. Just keep going, because it's a fast game, and if you're already going, keep going and find a way to keep your momentum and keep your speed up. But it's it's really fast, and if you watch it, at the National Hockey League level, we watch it on TV. You go to the game and you sit up high. The players are so talented and so fast. They make it look easy, but they also make it look slow. And it's not a slow game. The closer you get to the action, and that's why fans love college hockey, because you're right on top of the game. It's a very, very high-paced game, and you learn the skilled guys can slow it down and still play fast. And it's I love it. I mean, that's one of the best things, the guys that have that poise to slow down a fast game.
It's a great way of putting it.
Yeah.
Now, did you say you were a dirty player? You
Yeah,
said some might say
that.
dirty?
Yeah.
Why would they say that?
Well, some people, it's just the way I played. I mean, our stick work was way different back then. And,
Let's define stick work.
well, like slashing, hooking, more slashing, just things like that. Like, it's just, again, if you watch the old time hockey, and like, it's not that old time, but when I was playing, it was, back checking was just stick in the guy's ribs and slow him down. You just don't let him by you. And if you do that now, it's an automatic penalty. So the rules have changed, the ability has changed, and it's quite a different game.
And how have you had to adjust your coaching to adjust to this game?
Well, not really a lot. I mean, it happens naturally. The referees are going to call the game. The players are going to adapt to that, and we just have to, we have to teach them certain techniques. On it used to be, get your stick up, and the guy would have to go through it. Now everything is stick on puck. So there's just different little tactical strategies that we try to employ that are different from they were 20 years ago. But we have to evolve as coaches. The game's evolving, the referees are evolving, the players are evolving. So we have to evolve.
This might be my favorite question. You said that you used the phrase coaching beliefs, like your coaching beliefs. What are your coaching beliefs?
Well, there's so many things that go into coaching, right? We build our program, so I call it an umbrella. The top of the umbrella is the 4 values or pillars that are most important to our program. And that's commitment, family, discipline, and integrity. And the major decisions always involve those. And we ask our players to be invested and have ownership in each of those areas. So be invested in your commitment. Commit to something, do it all the way. We define those words. Those words define our behavior, right? The next layer of the beliefs, if you will, are being positive, being team first, and being competitive. So in both of those layers, you hear the term compete, competitive, and it's woven through our entire program. So we have a philosophy in recruiting, we have a philosophy in how we manage our team, but the 4 pillars really outline everything for our program.
Now, you undoubtedly had coaches that affected you and these beliefs. Who were these guys?
Well, I was fortunate. To have some guys that were unbelievable coaches and mentors. I always kept notes on the coaches that I played for, just things I liked, drills I liked, things I didn't like, whether it be a guy like Al Sims, who we won a championship with in Fort Wayne, Indiana in the International League, Kirk Fraser, guys that went on to NHL careers, either short or long, as coaches. My college coach, Jerry Welsh, had a big influence on me. Bruce Boudreau, who now coaches the Minnesota Wild, was an excellent coach. I was really fortunate to play for some great coaches. I learned a lot. I mentioned Rick Gotkin to you. I learned a lot working with him. Buddy Powers is a former RPI coach. I worked with him for 2 years. And then I learned a lot from the assistant coaches. So there's so much. The game is ever evolving. There's so many good ideas out there. I've always felt that I was trying to steal or take from anybody that I was talking to or playing with, and I think it's helped me gravitate to what I like and hold on to, and sort of discard the other things, and you keep looking.
That's a really smart approach. So were you thinking like a coach as a player? You say you took notes, like literal, you would write down notes?
I did. I don't know if I knew when I was in college that I was hoping one day to get into coaching. I didn't know what that meant at that time. I didn't know what that path looked like. I sent out some some letters at the time, hard copy letters. In 1992, I sent out 100 of them to the colleges about grad assistant, and I went and played pro, and then I started to evolve more into the coaching. I took notes because I think it helped me learn the game. I think it helped me learn the coaches and the personality style. I didn't at that time know that I would get into coaching. I thought about it, but when you're playing pro hockey, sometimes you're going day to day, week to week, and doing what you love. And I would wake up and think about hockey, go to bed thinking about hockey. So it just seemed natural.
So what were you thinking about? Like strategies? Was it more of the mental aspect of the game, or was it physical? Like, hey, I need to get faster. Hey, maybe I should do this. Hey, or was it also that 30,000 foot view as a player?
No, it's not a 30. It might be a 5,000 foot view, but at that time in professional hockey, even the competitiveness in junior hockey growing up, and then college hockey, it's survival. It's win the moment, win the day, win the week, and sometimes just watching hockey or talking hockey was about finding a way to succeed. I didn't have a strategy to keep getting better, but I do know, looking back, that I was super passionate about the game and super competitive, and those things led me to continual improvement, right? So now I'm trying to teach that, but at the time it was just my competitive nature and passion for the game that I was trying to find a way to survive some days, right? You go into some games and survive as a hockey player, right? Survive as a hockey player. Like, how can I win the faceoffs? What can I do? I gotta be better. I gotta find a way to score some goals. Why am I not scoring goals? What can I do? The summer training is the physical part, and at that time we started training in season, which was new, but it was all to gain a competitive edge personally.
Now, how does improving in hockey work? Say like, so what you just said about trying to get better and improving in the off season. Yeah. Now, the thing that comes to mind to me is say like in football, you have your quarterback and your receivers, say like Eli Manning and Odell Beckham. Like they go spend their off season together, just throwing together, like a quarterback practicing with his receivers. That's what they do. Does a hockey player, does he need to practice with a teammate, or is that something you could just do on your own? Like, okay, I need to work better on my skating. I need to work better on my footwork, or like, how does a hockey player do you need another hockey player out there to practice with, I guess is kind of my question. Yeah,
sometimes you need to be coachable. The individual needs to be coachable, and then you need somebody that will coach you, and then you need something to practice with. Sometimes you can practice by yourself, and you break the fundamentals down. You can shoot pucks in the driveway, and that will increase your shot. You need to go to skating lessons, but you need to work out so that your core strength and your leg strength will allow you to do the skating maneuvers and techniques to the best of your physical ability. So you've got to train the body, right? You've got to rest your mind in the summer times. You've got to be able to practice, and sometimes it's with a team, sometimes it's with an individual, sometimes it's small skills, sometimes it's bigger skills. So a lot goes into, and honestly, I think with the RPI program here, one of the things we want to hang our hat on is that our development model, we'll bring in a good player, make him great, or help him be great. We can't make anything happen, but help him be great. We'll bring in a great player and make him better, right? So I think that our development model, which brings everybody in, is what we're talking about. It's an all-inclusive, all-in mindset, physical and mental challenge to be your best.
Now you're taking over this program, and you must have a timetable in your head of like, okay, this is our timetable to turn things around. Now going into your second season now, how far along in that game plan, whether it's just in your head or something you've written down, what does this upcoming season feel like for you? Like, okay, we're going to make, are you checking the boxes of like, okay, we got this guy, we got this in place, we got these recruits. I think that whatever your coaching beliefs are, your theories, and the team you're trying to create, and the atmosphere that you're creating around these people, like when are you on schedule, I guess?
Well, in coaching, there's no schedule. It's win today, right? And so we're trying to win today. But the check boxes, as you say, are they're really challenging, and we want to find measurables as best we can. Measurables from our standard. And a lot of those things we don't share publicly, right? We don't share publicly about what are our intentions.
Yeah, definitely don't tell me then.
Those are things that with our players, with our staff, we work on daily, and I believe we're on the right path. I believe that we are on the path. We haven't reached our end goal, but we're definitely past the introduction to this book, right? So there's so many aspects. Like, my biggest concern is our behavior and the accountability within our program to each other, and that has taken major steps forward. With that comes the ability to play together confidently and ownership in the program. We've taken major steps forward with that. As that's happening, recruits look at us and say, well, you only had this many wins. We have to get the right players here that want to adopt the underdog mentality to help us overachieve, right? Then when you get there, you keep, it's a cyclical, hey, you do a little bit better, you recruit a little bit better, and you just grow the program. And I think one of the reasons I got this job is we built a program at Canisius that was, really, really down. They had never been to a league Final Four in their league. And if I take last year, I wasn't there last year, but 6 of the last 7 years now, they've been to the league Final Four. And when we look at RPI, they haven't been in the Final Four in a long time, right? In a number of years. And if we build this model, and I've done it before, if we build this model of ownership and accountability, and we recruit well, then we will get to the league Final Four. And we can see it. We can touch it. And we really won't know until the season's over how much closer we are, but we're definitely closer than we were a year ago.
There's something about that underdog mentality, right? Like you said, if there's a pushback, like, hey, you guys only had 6 wins, whatever it is. Yeah. Like, hey, you guys only won 6 games. Why should I come play for you?
Right.
Like, to me, that bothers me. That irritates me. That kind of attitude. Like, it has to excite you though that a player that has the opposite attitude, like, oh, I don't care. Like, good. We can only get better. I want to be here for the upswing. Yeah. Like, that kind of thing gets me excited. I always have this think back when I was just playing pickup games of whether it was baseball, basketball, or football, is people would complain if the teams were, I guess the phrase they always used was chops. Yo, these teams are chops. Like, say, like, we would just pick 5-on-5 basketball. Like, say the one team somehow got, like, 3 really good players and the other team not so good, and you knew you were going to get your butts kicked. I never wanted to be on the team with the guys that were afraid of getting their butt, that complained and said, no, we're going to get our butts kicked. I'm like, no, that's the team I want to be on. Right. Like, the team that can surprise the heck out of that team, that can use, their brains, their just sheer determination to want to be like that, loves being the underdog.
Right.
Because that's the great story, right? So have you had any recruits that are like, I don't care. I'm kind of glad that you guys maybe aren't so good.
A little bit different than that. I don't think we want to recruit a guy that says, hey, I'm glad.
I've said that the wrong way. Yeah.
I think it's such a delicate balance. We want to recruit, again, elite hockey players, committed students that want to leave their mark. What's the story that if we're going to recruit you, 5 years from now, after you finish this year and you play 4 years at RPI, will people still be talking about you? Will people know that you left your mark, that you left the program better than when you came into it? And if everybody has that work together, and if they take ownership is such a key word. If they take ownership and pride in the program and we do it together, then that's what we want. Let's build something together. Regardless of where we are, 3 years from now, if we're at the top of the league, we want to get better. We have to build on top of that. So maybe a year ago we were at the ground level, and we did build. We've taken steps forward, and all of our guys, the outgoing seniors, the juniors, the guys that were here previous to me getting here, they have a hand in this, and they all take a lot of pride in. They want to be better this year than they've ever been, and they're putting all their effort into that. And at the end of this year, we can look at those guys and say, first of all, thanks for your effort, thanks for your passion, thanks for your commitment, but you left a mark on this program, and we're going to obliterate that mark next year. So thank you for helping us in the transition, but our goal is to go up again. And that's what we're looking for, guys. That you're either part of the problem or part of the solution. So let's get after it here.
Right. Oh, you're getting me excited. I want to put on some skates and play now.
Yeah.
Don't put me on skates. Like, that's actually, I don't even want to. I kind of made my girlfriend promise to not let me put on skates again, because I said, hey, I'm gonna ask. I fall every time, and I'm terrible.
We're
at
not
winter
recruiting a lot of that.
No, but just me standing and trying to skate from here to there, dude, it's so embarrassing. I need like those little kid, like the milk crates.
Yeah.
Like I need to hold the milk crates. It's so bad. I'm so awful. But
Well, we've got to skate with the engineers after our first game. Maybe come out and we'll have a couple of guys
Right.
go around with you.
I was tempted last year.
Yeah.
I think when I saw that skate with the engineers, I was like, no. Like I can't look like I've looked so weak in front of these other dudes. So this team you have now, how many of the? What's fascinating to me about college sports is that there can be such fast turnarounds because you're always getting a new crop, right? You always got seniors that goodbye, you're out of here. Maybe you have a few transfers, but you're always getting a fresh new crop. So how many going into this season? How many of these recruits are your guys that you recruited?
Well, they're all my guys now, whether I recruited them or not. They're all my guys, and we've had a large turnover. The guys that have stayed, I believe in their commitment to the program. We have recruited 10 incoming freshmen, which is a large number.
Whoa.
We also have 3 transfers coming in that will be eligible at Christmas time. And then we have 15 returning juniors and seniors total. So that together makes 28 guys that are my guys, they're our guys, and together we're in it.
Good answer, Coach.
Well, that's the truth.
It is the truth. You're right.
if
You're taking ownership. It's all.
Yeah,
You're the coach of everyone.
If I'm not, that guy should walk into my office and say, Coach, you're not coaching me. And
Right.
I say, oh, that's not me doing my job. We have to work with the guys that we've got some cards. We can't just get rid of everybody. And I don't want to. There's some really good players, guys that I knew and watched play junior hockey, and they're really good and talented players. We need to tweak them to my belief system and the new RPI way, and they're all in. If they weren't all in, we'd move them along, right? But these guys are. There's no choice. There's no choice in saying, well, I'm going to coach you and not you, but you can stay. That's not an option.
Gotcha. So what does the schedule of a student athlete look like during hockey season?
That's a good question that we share with a lot of recruits. That classes are 8 until 2. So you don't always go 8 until 2, but you've often got maybe 8 to 10, and then 12 to 2, and then in there you've got to have breakfast, you got to have lunch somewhere there, and you come to practice. We have, if you're not on the ice, if you don't have class, you can come over and work on your skills on the ice as a hockey player in the morning if you choose. Our practice will be, anywhere from 1 to 4, 2 to 4, in that range. Right after that, we lift together as a team. We have a strength coach, Justin, who does a phenomenal job. Then it's dinner. Freshmen or anybody under a 3.0, we have study table for 2 hours on Sunday and Monday. And then it's homework. And what we talk about with recruits is that you can do that one day, no problem. You can do it even for a week. At the end of the week, you'll be tired. All of a sudden, if your nutrition isn't solid, if your sleep isn't solid, if you're not staying up in your homework, it catches up to you. And the late nights and the early mornings all of a sudden takes a toll on you physically and mentally. So that one day by itself is the life of a student athlete at RPI. The rigor that they face academically, the rigor that they face athletically, the competitiveness socially now on a college campus with 7,000 18 to 23, 24-year-olds, right? It's competition all day long. It can tire them out. It can wear them down. So they got to pay attention to their body, their mind, and make sure they're doing the right things. But I love that question, because one day is easy. 1 week's a little bit harder. 1 year, you see the ups and the downs for the new guys. But by the time they're, through that first year, they can adapt, and their time management skills are crucial.
Do you recognize, say, when a kid's about to burn out or is burning out, like, Coach, this is...
Yeah, I hope so. And I hope that we have that communication with them, because we do a lot of individual meetings. We have leadership teams, and we want that, we'll call them the low man in the totem pole, whoever that is, to have a voice all the way up to the head coach. And my voice should be heard all the way down. And we have one-on-one meetings. We have 1 and 3 meetings with 3 players. So we also want our juniors and seniors to pass along and share their experiences. So through all of that, we hope nobody gets missed. Occasionally we do. We try not to, but this is such a big business. Mental health, physical health, all of these things clash and merge and collide, and it's our job to care about these guys to develop that full person. And I believe in our staff, I believe in our community at RPI, that no one will sneak through those cracks, and we'll be able to identify and help anybody that is truly successful, help them be better, or maybe not as successful as they're capable of.
Now, along the lines of and you mentioned nutrition. Do D1 hockey? Do you guys, are there like dietitians to say like,
yeah,
hey?
we help with the meals. That's for sure. Our strength coach and our athletic trainer, and our hockey operations person, they will consult with dietitians, and they will pick our meals when we're traveling as a team, or when we bring meals in at home. And then other than that, we're guiding and advising and giving them nutritional advice for when they are eating in the dorms or cooking on their own.
Yeah, because the nutritional choices of a 20-year-old dude tend not to be the most good for their body. And I think that schedule is just like, that's an adult schedule. That's a burn you out, can burn you out if your nutrition's not. I mean, try to do that when you're like 40. Try to have that schedule and eat like crap when you're 40. It's not going to work out. You're going to burn out. As a 20-year-old, I don't know. I think most 20-year, especially these semi-super athletes, right? Like they think they could eat whatever they want and be fine, and they probably can to a degree,
I think it would surprise you, Doug, on the commitment that they have in nutrition. The difference that these guys, the biggest mistake these guys make is when they're starving, and it's a matter of convenience, because they can wolf down Big Macs left and right, but they don't. They are committed. I mean, we have guys that'll make their lunches the night before. They're planning these things out. We also have, snacks and things for them. Like, they will graze all day long. But their commitment to nutrition is impressive. Like, these guys none of them would be at RPI if it wasn't for hockey. Their identity is as a hockey player, and we're a hockey program. So they do make that commitment. They're not perfect, and the education of it helps them evolve. But the older they get, the better they eat.
That's so important. Did you think like this as a 20-year-old? Was nutrition anything?
At that time it was chicken parm was pre-game, post-game, and everything else. It was just starting to evolve, but not to the level of these guys in their commitment.
There's such good information out there. That's something I saw a while ago that it was trickling down to the high school level of athletes of. These kids are taking this so seriously that they had these strict nutritional regimens in high school as athletes. I'm like, this is smart. Like, it's a great form of discipline, right? Like you mentioned all the other things of like the regimen, take everything seriously, and discipline carries over to all facets of your life if you're going to be successful. And nutrition is one that a lot of people just let slip through the cracks, especially if you're
really hard.
It's tough because you're going to be, like you said, there's times where you're just so hungry. And you're like, there's McDonald's. Like, I don't want to do this, but what else can I do? I'm so hungry. And then I think I eat a Big Mac a year. I used to do 2 a year. I don't even know if I don't know if I've had one so far this year. But it's almost immediate regret. Like, my body rejects it now because I've been eating healthy for several years now. And I see this, especially the people that are really high performers in any field, athletes and non-athletes, They all take care of themselves. Like, nutrition is just so important. And I'm glad that seems to be a bit of our culture change, because it wasn't so when I was teenage and early 20s, it was just like, eat whatever you want. You're going to burn it off. You're fine. Like, that was coming from adults telling me that. I'm like, okay, sounds great. And I'm like, oh my God, you guys were so wrong. Now with nutrition, I've definitely seen nutrition change. What about, say, you mentioned your strength and conditioning and your coach. Yeah. Like, how has that changed from when you were a player or even early coaching?
Well, I don't know how much it's changed. The science has changed everything. The information has changed everything. It's a year-round commitment. It's an everyday commitment. There's no reason our guys shouldn't improve their strength and flexibility and conditioning during the season. So it's an all-inclusive program that if we're going to do something on the ice, our strength coach needs to be aware of it, because it might take away some things that he's trying to gain in the weight room. We will talk with him about the commitment of time. So like we might be on the ice at 9:30 in the morning. It doesn't make sense to go on the ice for an hour and a half and then go immediately to workout. They need some nutrition in there. So the strength and conditioning, we didn't miss one game last year due to injury, other than a contact injury is one thing, but a pulled groin or a torn shoulder muscle from no contact, we didn't miss one game.
That sounds unbelievable. Is that common?
I know for us, our strength coach takes a lot of pride in that.
That's incredible.
The flexibility, the core, all of those things are non-contact injuries. Was zero, and that's phenomenal in a sport that's a high collision sport.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the first things I picked up when I went to the see college hockey. I'm like, these dudes are clamoring out there. They're hitting. How do they feel the next day?
Yeah.
And then it is. That's one thing I've noticed just overall, I guess, is between hockey and just anything, I guess, all of our athletes, it's all about flexibility and strength. Whereas, when I was really mid-90s, late 90s, even early 2000s, it's all about just lift weights, get big, bulky. I remember, Mark McGuire, Sammy Sosa years. I'm like,
that was a different.
Holy crap. Yeah, I know. That was a different thing, but it worked for the time. It totally worked. These guys were killing it. They were the best baseball players on the planet. And I feel like hockey players were really big back then too. I feel like all athletes were really big then. And now I watch baseball, I'm like, oh, these guys are small, but they seem more skilled. And I think a lot of that is due to flexibility, and everyone seems to do yoga now.
Well, our guys are lean. That's the phrase. Our guys are lean. You don't want to be carrying, because it's about speed. Everything is speed. Not just hockey, but sports is about speed. Tennis, watching the U.S. Open, is about speed.
Right.
Everything is about speed and core strength and the ability to get from one spot to another spot quickly and then perform some act. And hockey's the same thing. Our guys are very lean and very strong and very flexible. And it's a requirement if you want to be an elite athlete.
I can't believe nobody got hurt last year. Yeah, that's crazy.
It's great for our strength coach. He did a great job with it.
That really is.
Doesn't mean we didn't miss any games to injury. Guy gets hit into the boards. That's a contact injury. But nobody's skating tore their groin muscle or pulled a hamstring or a quad muscle or anything like that. It was terrific.
That is. Wow. I'm going to have to let that sink in. I need to talk to the strength and conditioning coach, because I hurt myself sometimes walking stairs. Well, that's just probably just old man stuff, I bet.
It might be.
So when's game one? When's the puck drop?
So we play Prince Edward Island on October 7th. That's technically an exhibition game, and we'll play all of our goalies and we'll play as many guys as we can in that game. And then the next weekend we have a home and away series with University of Massachusetts, and then we get right into it. We play University of Connecticut the following weekend, and then we have the ECAC opening weekend with a home and away with Union, which is always a great weekend.
So how long does it take for you to know what you got? Like what kind of team you got? Do you think you know that now, or is it 5 games in, 10 games in?
The way I look at it, Doug, is maybe it's a little bit different, but you look at these guys, and if I look at you for what you are today, if I do that with my athletes, then I might not be filling up their bucket. I got to look and see what they can be. Right, so our freshmen, they might not be great today, but through the recruiting process, we create this vision, right? And if you give it a score, we want to recruit guys that we at least feel can be a 10 out of 10 in their role and their capacity. It will never end. I've got a pretty good idea now on the individuals, right? For this team to be successful at RPI, we need those individuals to become a team. And when they become a team, we'll look back and say, hey, do you remember when? So our goal, our calendar, everything is around creating a team and having that ownership. We know what individuals we have now. We haven't been on the ice with them yet. We've seen them as we walk through the rink. It's only been captain's practices. tomorrow's the first day on the ice. We'll learn a lot more then. Guys will be a little scared because old coaches are out now, and then they'll settle back in, and then we'll really have a chance to push and grow as a group. And again, we're going to have adversity. I know that. We're going to try to win every game, as we always will. What happens when you don't? What happens if you lose 3 in a row? Where does the leadership come in? That will determine when I know what we have, right? I like the pieces right now, but the puzzle isn't yet complete.
That's a pretty good spot to stop, I think. I don't know what time are we at now. 5:40? That's what it looks like. That's a great. That gets me excited. I really wish I could play hockey.
The guys up there up the hill that are representing RPI, wearing the hockey jersey, are special guys. They work their tails off. They want the same things that the fans want. And it's our job to bring it all together. And when we do, we'll celebrate. We'll celebrate in downtown Troy. I hear this somewhere down here. There's a case. There's a box, and it won't be opened. And I'm not sure if it's till we're league champs again or in the Final Four. But somewhere in one of these places down here, there's a box with stuff in it, and it's like a little bit like a time capsule. And I want to open that box, which means I think it is we have to win the league, and that would be phenomenal.
What? This is real? This is the first I'm hearing of this.
Oh yeah.
Who put it there? The 85 team? Whoa, yeah. A Troy RPI mystery, a hidden box? Yeah. Man. All right, I got some research to do.
Yeah.
All right, this has been a lot of fun, Dave. This has been fantastic. Great meeting you. And I might need to talk to your philosopher wife, because I love philosophers too.
She's
and I could tell some of her ideas must bleed into your thinking, the way you talk.
Well, she's super intelligent. She teaches up at RPI, and not the best thing, but one of the best things, because there's many best things, is that she is the daughter of a hockey family. Her father played in the National Hockey League for 11 years. They moved around, and they're a super supportive family. And if you had the time, she would be a special guest for you too.
All right, maybe we might have to set that up. Wow, you really truly have a hockey family.
Yeah.
Wow, this is in your blood.
I have a daughter that plays college hockey. I have another daughter that plays college softball. So we're entrenched in the college athlete lifestyle.
Oh, the athletic tradition keeps going.
Yes, it does.
All right, this has been great, Dave.
Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you.
It's been awesome.
All right. Take care, everyone. Coach Dave Smith, root for RPI and Troy.
That's right.
Take care. Bye-bye. I love it, man. I love talking. This is fantastic.